So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us and for taking some time out of your day to spend the next hour. We're going to be talking about middle managers, the struggles that they're facing, and really how they're on the brink of burning out and what you can do from a C-suite level to support them. So, let's first just introduce ourselves.
So hi, good morning. Actually, good afternoon. I'm Christine Ippolito. I'm the founder and principal of Compass Workforce Solutions. We are a certified women-owned business and an award-winning HR consulting firm dedicated to providing HR expertise and resources to entrepreneurial-minded businesses. Our work is focused around 4 key areas that really make a difference in business profitability: scalability and performance, so compliance, operational controls as it relates to managing people, dealing with workplace conflicts, and building and developing high-performing teams. So we are also certified predictive index practitioners and part of the largest predictive index collaborative in the world. And so you'll see a picture at the bottom. That is my PI team, along with my colleague, Marie, and several of us here at Compass that are certified in PI. So my PI profile is I'm a strategist. I'm very analytical. I'm results driven. I have a drive for change. I am a calculated risk taker. I can be very controlling and I can be hard on people, but I'm not just hard on people. I push for results. I set very high standards for myself and others. And I push for high quality work. I seek to be an expert in my field, and that's one of my internal drivers and motivators. So at the top right, you'll see my rescue dog, Little P. I quickly learned with Little P that my natural approach to push hard and demand high results fast in our trainings was not effective, and frightened live things may bite you. So I had to change my approach and be much more slow, steady, compassionate, and methodical. And I learned that that also could be very effective depending on who I was dealing with. I'll let Marie introduce herself.
Thank you. I am Marie Mareno. I'm an HR generalist here at Compass. As Christine mentioned, I'm also certified in the predictive index, and my PI profile is that of a specialist. So I'm a very precise worker. I like to be detail oriented, follow the rules. I'm really not much of a rule breaker. I'm also fairly fast paced. So I like a lot of variety. I'm also results driven. One of my challenges that I do struggle in a stagnant environment. So I do like to constantly be moving and have a lot on my plate. And then I'm also skeptical. So I do question things. I analyze things internally, but I'm also respectful towards authority. And then in addition to PI, I am also a certified HR professional through SHRM. And I'm a SHRM facilitator. So I facilitate the certification course to new HR professionals looking to obtain their HR certifications. All right, so let's jump into our session today. So we are going to be exploring really 3 key objectives. So we're going to look at middle managers' roles as well as their challenges, and we're going to talk about some insights into their responsibilities and the specific challenges that they're facing within the organization. And then we'll also talk about developing a plan for sustaining and perpetuating a culture that's based on connection and collaboration between executives and middle managers that will transcend over the long term. And then lastly, we're going to talk about some resources and additional support that we can provide you. So we'll talk about what we can provide you from an HR standpoint, and then also how you can support the needs of your middle managers and explore ways to meet those needs effectively. So before we jump into that, let's just talk about who are our middle managers. So these are the managers in the company that really bridge the gap between senior leadership and the frontline employees. So they're carrying out a lot of the decisions that are made at the executive level. And essentially, they're the glue that's holding our teams together, and they're ensuring our company's success. So all of those decisions that are made at the top level, they're communicated through our middle managers, and ultimately they're the ones that are carrying it out with the frontline employees. Some common job titles that we see from middle managers are general managers, regional managers, divisional managers, and even department or functional managers. So typically these are people who are responsible for a department, a location, or a geographic area. And they're really the ones that are carrying out those decisions and then ensuring that those directives are executed efficiently and effectively. All right, so let's do a quick Slido just to see who we have here today. So you can either scan the QR code in the top left corner, or you can join at slido.com and enter that number. And we'd like you to share what is your specific role. So are you a C-suite executive? Are you a middle manager? Are you bridging that gap? Or are you an individual contributor where you're not directly overseeing anyone and you're just responsible for your own work? So we have a handful of responses so far. It looks like we have mostly C-suite executive level team members on our call today, a couple of middle managers as well. So let's just talk a little bit more about what our middle managers do and what they're responsible for. So on the left side, these are the common responsibilities we often see for our middle managers. And the right side depicts a chart of how middle managers are actually spending their time. So some of the common responsibilities and expectations we have for our middle managers include implementing strategies. So again, they're playing that key role in executing the strategies and the initiatives that are set by senior management. And they're ensuring that the day-to-day activities of their teams align with the organization's goals. They're also expected to supervise other team members. So they're managing and leading teams of employees. They're providing guidance, support, and feedback to ensure that the team is meeting their goals and that they're supporting them in any areas of shortcomings. And then they're also expected to have strong communication skills. So they're often serving again as that bridge between our senior managers and our frontline employees. They're relaying information, instructions, and feedback in both directions. They're also problem solvers. So they're typically responsible for addressing issues and challenges that are arising within their departments. And they're finding solutions to whether it's operational problems, people problems, and they're making decisions as needed. And then they're responsible for allocating resources. So they may be managing their department budgets, their personnel, how many staff members do they need, how much equipment do they need to ensure that they're able to meet the goals of the department or the division. And then they do a lot of development and training. So they're often overseeing the development and training of their teams to ensure that their employees have the necessary skills and knowledge to perform their roles effectively. So those are really what we expect middle managers to be responsible for. But there was a recent survey by McKinsey that surveyed 706 middle managers to see how they spend their time at work. And the results are depicted in that chart on the right. And what we're finding is that our middle managers are spending more time on completing work themselves. So 31% of their time is spent on individual contributor work. And this is work that would typically be completed by someone who's not managing other employees. So they're spending the majority of their time actually doing the work rather than training and developing other people to do it. And what we also see here is that almost half of middle managers' time is spent on non-managerial work. So if we look at that administrative tasks, that's 18%, and that individual contributor work, that equals a little bit less than half. So they're spending less than half of their time actually managing, actually implementing strategies and supervising. And this isn't uncommon. We see this a lot as well. So we do see that a lot of middle managers are spending a lot of time on administrative work. So for example, we recently had a middle manager that said they didn't have enough time to support their people because they had a pile of expense reports that they needed to review and submit. That is highly administrative, and we really want to look at where they're spending their time and where it's adding value. And this can, happen based on various situations, but you do want to take a look at those things to see how can their time be better spent managing and completing those manager responsibilities versus administrative tasks and doing things themselves. We hear a lot from managers, it's just quicker if I do it myself. We'll say, why didn't you delegate this to someone? It would have taken me too long. By the time I train them on it, it's easier to do it myself. Or we're down a person today, so I needed to spend the day actually doing the work myself. And this can happen for different reasons. They could be short-staffed, it could be a heavy workload, or maybe that manager just doesn't have proper training on how to delegate or how to develop someone. So let's look a little bit more about how our middle managers are doing. So recently, the Predictive Index and Studio ID surveyed over 340 people leaders. And the goal was to really understand the concerns and challenges faced by middle managers and how their experiences align with those of their leaders. So that survey, 22% of the respondents held C-suite level positions, and 78% of the respondents held middle manager positions. So let's look a little bit at our findings. So based on that survey, 70% of middle managers said that they would love to return to being an independent contributor if they could keep the same pay. So let's just let that sink in for a minute. That is a very high percentage. So what this tells us is that there's a reason why our middle managers don't like managing. And then in addition to that, 79% of middle managers said that they're at risk of burnout from the stress of managing people. And 82% of C-suite leaders agreed with that, saying that their middle managers are at risk of burnout. So we've all heard the term burnout a lot. But let's talk about it a little bit more. What are the signs of burnout? What might you see from a manager that indicates that they're on the edge of burnout? Typically, they are disengaged. They're unable to really regulate their emotions. We'll see that they're snippy, or they're lashing out on people, or they have low motivation. And studies show that employees that are burnt out or close to being burnt out are twice as likely to quit. So what does this burnout really look like, and how does it impact the manager as well as their team? So when you have leaders that are burnt out, they become slow and they're indecisive when they're faced with important decisions, and they feel much less confident in their choices. This can often lead to poor business decisions and missed opportunities, and it impacts their teams as well, ultimately resulting in lower morale and engagement. So that lack of motivation from your managers will trickle right down to the employee level, because burnout is contagious. So if you're very stressed out, burnt out as a senior leader, your middle managers will feel that. They'll sense that, and then they'll become stressed out as well. And it could lead to burnout from them, and then it trickles right down. So we're going to talk about some solutions, but some quick tips that we have for you is, if you're able to, implement a flexible work schedule. provide those middle managers with some remote work options, even if it's one day a month that they can spend working remote to really have that focus time. If there's something, a big project they need to work on or a report they need to put together, allow them that time so that they can focus and feel accomplished. Another one is scheduling one-on-ones. So having some one-on-one meetings regularly scheduled with your middle managers and then sticking to that cadence that you create. And then also providing coaching advice. So in those one-on-ones, coaching that manager, understanding what their issues are, where their challenges are, and providing them efficient tools and technology to be able to complete their work.
So where are the challenges? What is leading up to this middle manager burnout? Well, there's four key areas, but I think one of the things that is extremely powerful to understand is McKinsey released a survey earlier this year, and they surveyed middle managers, and middle managers felt only 20% of those middle managers felt that their organizations were really supporting them in being successful people managers. So you have 1 in 5 middle managers that feel supported by their organization in dealing with people, supporting people, training and developing people, and having enough people. The key 4 areas where they're not feeling supported is lack of support from the C-suite. Okay, we talked about being on the edge of burnout and what that looks like. A lack of development opportunities, and a shortness of team resources. So when you think about it, and we've had a lot of recruiting and hiring challenges and turnover challenges in the last 18 to 20 months. Your middle managers really bear the brunt of when a team member leaves, they're picking up the slack, they're adjusting resources, they're reassigning tasks, they're reprioritizing, they're answering team questions about who's going to do what, who's going to address the changes, how are we going to adopt this, when are we getting another new person? And then they're involved in the interview and selection process. So even if it's just doing face-to-face interviews, they're still dedicating additional time away from key middle manager objectives. Then when they get a new hire, they're really highly involved in training and developing that new hire and onboarding that new hire in the team. As we talked about before, burnout amongst middle managers is highly contagious to the rest of the team. So 73% of employees who had a burned out manager also report feeling burned out. So if we can support our middle managers, we make it much easier for them to support their teams. So as PI practitioners, we really believe that you can better address and deal with burnout and prevent burnout if you understand the drives, needs, and motivators of your middle managers and their team members. You can dig deeper into the why. Why does someone feeling burned out? Because Marie mentioned in her profile, she loves change. She doesn't want to do the same thing every day. That's exciting to her. It's motivating to her. But that is not motivating to every person. You have people on the opposite side of the behavioral spectrum that need certainty. They need to know, what is my day going to look like? I don't like surprises. I work at a slow and steady pace. And if I'm constantly interrupted, I'm not going to be performing at my best, and it's adding to my stress level. So understanding this about your people really helps you to get people in the right spot. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper into lack of support from the top. So one of the challenges is, we talked about earlier, middle managers are the communicators in the organization. But when they're elevating issues or concerns or feedback from the team to the executive suite, they're not feeling heard or understood about issues that they feel are important to them and the team. So executives believe that they're listening to middle managers, but middle managers strongly disagree. So 2/3 of them, or 67%, do not feel heard when approaching their leaders about important issues. this lack of alignment between the C-suite and middle managers leaves middle managers feeling very unsupported and frustrated. So oftentimes, middle management will go to the C-suite, and what we hear as HR professionals from the middle managers is, I'm told that's not an important issue. I'm told I don't need to know why we need to do this or why there's a change in direction, or I'm told that what I'm seeing is not really happening and I'm being dismissed, and my point of view is not being listened to or validated or even appreciated. So again, not everyone who's a middle manager is the same. We have some middle managers that embrace risk and innovation and challenge. You have other middle managers that do not, and they need certainty and clarity and support in order to move forward when faced with new decisions. So somebody's view on risk, is it interesting and challenging, or is it terrifying and paralyzing, is really important to understand about who they're managing and what are the key initiatives assigned to those managers. So for some managers, autonomy and independence in making decisions is a key motivator. For other managers, absolutely not. So we're going to go on to another poll. And we're going to ask you, if you're a middle manager and you're elevating issues to C-suite executives, how long does it take before it's addressed or someone at the executive suite tries to support you in resolving that issue? Is it a week? Is it a month? Is it 90 days? Is it 1 year? How are we doing with responses, Marie? Do we have?
We have like a handful.
Okay, we'll just give it another second or two. So a lot of the survey data showed that it can take up to a year for middle managers to feel like issues are being addressed in the work environment, or they're given the tools and resources they need to be successful. And I think that goes back to that statistic that we talked about. Only 20% or 1 in 5 middle managers feel like their organization is setting them up to be successful people managers with the right amount of resources.
I think we have the bulk of our responses in.
Yeah, so it looks like, fortunately, here, a lot of people are feeling like there's resolution within 30 days, but some people are waiting as long as 90 days to get support or answers to critical questions. So why are managers feeling burned out in the organization? So again, we kind of talked about feeling the squeeze, right? You're having to execute that executive strategy, maybe not even involved in setting strategy, but just handed a strategy, and now also forced to communicate that strategy to the rest of the team without receiving maybe the support or the development needed to be able to communicate well, right? How often do we promote managers based on their ability to execute at an individual contributor level, but then we don't train them on communication and how to deliver messages in a way that people can be heard? So we also talked a little bit before about some middle managers spend up to 2 days a week on individual contributor work and 1 day a week on administrative tasks. So that's 75%, I'm not doing that, 60% of their week on non-managerial activities. So they're working nights, they're working weekends, they're working extra hours to try to get their individual work or their administrative work done, and they're trying to be present and fully present while their teams are surrounding them. So burnout goes beyond being just tired or stressed, right? There's a mental, emotional toll that people take when they're burned out. And so intention and organizational support is really needed for people to regain that sense of equilibrium. So knowing and understanding what type of communication do middle managers need? Is it face-to-face? Is it strong, thorough, structured process, procedures, and documentation? Do they need a lot of predictability and stability? Or do they prefer to kind of fly by the seat of their pants and make it up as they go? This is really going to help you understand who's maybe feeling more burnout and why. So aligning people to the pace, the natural pace that they work. Like Marie and I are hard, fast drivers. So we love consulting because every day is a new day. It never stops coming at us. But there's a lot of people that this environment would not be positive for them. Not because they're not good HR practitioners, but because that doesn't fit the pace of how they're able or capable of working or their natural pace of work. So aligning people to their unique drives, needs, and motivators is really key to avoiding burnout. And with the tools in Predictive Index, we're very quickly able to see within 6 to 10 minutes, what are those drives, needs, and motivators, help communicate them to C-suite executives, and also bring managers and supervisors into a sense of awareness of where they're at and how they're flexing to meet the demands of their environment. So we'll move on to the number 3, why are managers not feeling supported? So deficit of development. So the C-suite truly believes that the top skill needed for middle management is leadership. They need leadership skills, and this is a critical skill to be developed. But what we often see is as soon as there's a slight hint of an economic downturn or people are in cost-cutting mode, training and development go away. Those budgets are cut, it's reduced, we take it down to basic needs, and middle managers don't feel that they're getting the training and development that they need to be successful. So they're kind of learning as they go. They're making it up as they go along. They're using trial and error, which can bring about additional stress and additional burnout, because when you get it wrong, there is a consequence. Your team will lash back at you for failure to communicate or to communicate in a way that's clear. So a lot of companies offer some level of support and development, but not enough. So again, what can you do? So engaging in monthly check-ins and having a conversation with those managers about where do they specifically feel support and development would be most critical. So we all have limited resources, but if we can align that skill and development to their critical need and help them in a just-in-time way, they can move forward and feel much more supported. And the weekly check-in says, I care, I want to help you. Let's build a relationship of trust where we're collaborating. Again, helps to eliminate them feeling like their organization is not supporting them. So the last bullet that we'll cover is lack of resources, right? And there's 3 key areas where middle managers are really feeling lack of resources on the team. So, again, a lot of organizations are struggling to find people that want to work, that are committed to working, that are showing up every day and producing positive results. So shortness of team resources, the workload is becoming too heavy. Turnover adds to that. But a lot of times when people leave, an organization will intentionally choose, we're not going to replace that position for 6 to 9 months. We could probably get by with what we have right now. Let's hold off and see, does the environment change? Does business pick up? What are the new challenges coming at us? How is inflation going to be adapted? So this complex dynamic kind of keeps middle managers stuck. And 31% or a third of them really feel strongly that they need larger teams. So this week on Monday, I had an interesting conversation with someone who is a middle manager and running a department of 7 or 8 people, and asking me to consult with him and his supervisors, what is reasonable overtime? What is reasonable overtime for the team to work? So we got into a conversation about, well, who wants to work overtime? The holidays are coming. Some employees view this as a valuable experience. Extra money in your paycheck means that you can do more things for your family or for yourself, or maybe get something to support you, maybe meal plans at home. Other employees may be caregivers. The overtime may actually increase their personal expenses for caring for elderly parents or caring for children, or put additional stress on them that they're not able to perform some of the family support that they were doing before. So having this interactive dialogue with the team and finding out who would enjoy working the overtime and benefit from it, and who would not, and what were those reasons, and were they valid, credible reasons for not being able to work overtime. Then we also talked about the duration of the overtime. Do we add a team member right now? Is that possible? How long do we think this overtime would last? And in that conversation, figured out, well, it's probably going to end mid-November. So is this something that the current team is interested in and can handle, or should we bring someone else in? And if we do bring in another employee, what's the definition of full-time in that company's handbook and benefit policies? So if we bring in another person to help now with overtime, is it a temporary worker, or do we bring in another person and consider maybe after working all this overtime, some employees would prefer to go to 32 hours a week or 30 hours a week in order to kind of recoup and recover from this experience? So how do we creatively together with support from HR look at solving these complicated problems that middle managers get handed? So what are some other things that organizations can do? And I think if you keep this, thought foremost on your mind, every organization is driven by your people, right? People is what drive the organization. So if you don't know what's driving your people, you're not going to be able to support your people and driving your organization. So critically, right, open, direct conversations with management. C-suite executives need to dedicate the time, whether it's a 15-minute one-on-one or a 30-minute one-on-one, a place where middle managers can voice their concerns, where C-suite executives can re-explain the why, any changes in strategy or changes in direction, and support those managers in communicating down. You can also hold skip level meetings. So skip level meetings are meetings of managers and leaders without the manager's direct supervisor present. So the point of this is team problem solving, learning from other managers. How did I solve that problem? How did I communicate this strategy? What are some things that I've done successfully on my team with no judgment? So they're working collaboratively together. For your managers and supervisors that are extremely collaborative and not as independent, this is an extremely good way to prevent that level of burnout, because they feel like I'm reducing my risk, I'm talking through issues with the team, it's a no judgment zone, I can take these good ideas and go back and get some resolution. Creating safe places for managers to speak up. So with a lot of our clients, HR holds manager monthly one-on-ones. These are confidential, safe space meetings to work through problems, issues, challenges among their team, or helping them to manage up. How do I start a conversation with my executive about this issue, about this challenge? How do I begin that? How are they going to perceive it? What type of communicator are they? How do I position myself in a way that they're going to be able to listen in a way that fits their communication style. This really relieves a tremendous amount of pressure, and again, is allowing managers to feel supported and have the tools, and it's not a huge investment of time or money. It's a safe place for them to be. Number 4, better understand where our managers spending their time. We're still spending a tremendous amount of time in long meetings. Why? Are these meetings productive? Are we getting things done? Or is it just adding to the workload? So understand where people are spending their time and look to eliminate unnecessary tasks. I think we all have busy work that we do because we've always done it. Do we really need to do it? I mean, right now with AI, you can use bots to take meeting minutes for you and disseminate the meeting minutes instantly among the team. So that's not adding another hour of someone typing up meeting minutes after the fact. So eliminate those things or set clear agendas in advance for meetings. And finally, connecting with people in a way that allows for them to communicate in their preferred style. So are they someone who's a low extrovert, where one-on-one FaceTime that's scheduled with an agenda in advance so they can think it through, jot down notes about the problems or challenges they're having? Is that more beneficial than just popping by and doing a check-in? So people that are low extroverts don't want you to do a pop-by. It's interruptive. It breaks their train of thought. They're not prepared to speak to you. They need time to process their thoughts. But if you set a time, they'll respond very well. Your high extroverts, on the other hand, love to see you pop by, stick your head in, say good morning, good afternoon. How are you going? What are you doing? What's going well? How can I help? So you have to know your people, know the most effective way to support them. And then training. Are we training our managers on how to delegate effectively? So a 20 to 30 minute training on effective delegation can really help people get things off their plate that are not as important, and someone else on the team can do it. Or maybe there's an administrative person that can do it. So I have a girlfriend who works at J&J. She has a PhD in change management. And J&J decided they were going to save $1 billion by reducing administrative support to different departments. So now she does her own expense reports. Now, think about the dollar value of her time and the loss of her supporting the organization and moving through change and implementing new ERP systems because she's spending time every month on her own expense reports. That seems a little crazy. Is it really $1 billion savings? I would argue in the long run, no, it's not. So be smart about where we're cutting money. When you train people as a group, right, and you put them in a safe space, and that's kind of something that we do at Compass. We have half-day team gatherings 3 to 4 times a year where we focus internally on our training and development, and we're all together. So we let our clients know, this is where we're going to be for 4 hours today. If you're really having an emergency, please reach out and call us. But we're bettering ourselves so we can better support you. And we all walk away better connected, energized, and with another set of tools in our tool belt to continuously help the people that we work with.
Okay, let's move on to our final poll. So if everyone can share either one strategy that you learned today or one takeaway that you're going to bring back to your organization. And if you're a middle manager, what is something that you would like to see implemented in your organization?
So maybe what I'll do is I'll repeat some of the things that Marie and I touched on. So one-on-one meetings, right? Scheduling one-on-ones. providing short scheduled training sessions, creating safe spaces. So we talked about safe spaces for managers to get help and share their feelings, share their concerns. So those skip level meetings where maybe they're meeting with peers and it's a judgment-free zone, they're all there to problem solve together and to support each other with the strategies that have worked for them. Doing a little bit of analysis on where your managers are spending time. So if your managers are spending that 31% on individual contributor work, how long is that going to last? Is that temporary? Is that a long-term strategy? So kind of understanding what administrative things could we automate, right? What could we use AI for or bots for? Can we record meetings, maybe instead of taking meeting minutes, like what we're doing here today? There's really small tweaks. Somebody put reducing unnecessary meetings. Fantastic. Most middle managers will tell you, I'm in meetings all day long. I have no time. And then when I come out of the meeting, I don't have time to effectively communicate to my team what was discussed in the meeting. So I either don't or I do it at the last minute. And now everybody's feeling stressed and pressured to be able to get these things done in a timely manner. So you guys are giving great feedback. I don't know, Marie, can we scroll down? It looks like maybe because everyone's answer is different.
I cannot.
Okay, so what we can do is we do get the results of the Slido when we've completed with the presentation. So when we send out, everyone that registered is going to get a recording. You're going to get a copy of the middle manager report. So you're going to get your own copy to read. And then you'll also get the Slido kind of capturing what is everybody going to do to help support their middle managers and make some changes in their organization to prevent this burnout and allow people to move forward in a more positive way. So we're all about supporting you. That's why we do these complimentary webinars once a month. We want to share our insights and our wisdom and successful strategies. We really believe at Compass that our mission here is to create thriving communities and help employees and companies be successful at work. So we're offering to spend time with C-suite leaders doing some predictive index analysis of you and your team to really understand what could be holding them back. What is their communication style? What are their drive, needs, and motivators? So all you need to do is send an email to info@Compass. In the subject line, put success and let us know if you would be interested in a one-on-one talent strategy session. And we'll do PI profiles on you and your team, and we'll give you a 60-minute overview of that information for you to take away.
And quite a few people said that their takeaways were to manage your people more to their behavioral drive. So introverted versus extroverted, and really flex to their behavior. So this will be extremely helpful in supporting you to do that.
I'll look at the chat and see if there's any questions. Does anyone have any questions? We have a few minutes left in our time today. All right, if not, we will move on. And we will just ask, please don't keep us a secret. Let your colleagues know you enjoy the webinar, share the webinar. And if you can scan the QR code and share your feedback, that really just helps us continue to produce content that's meaningful. It also helps us with our internet SEO, which is greatly appreciated. Our next webinar is Tuesday, November 21st at noon. So we're changing from Wednesday to Tuesday because that's Thanksgiving week. We're also going to switch up topics a little bit. So the focus on that webinar is going to be understanding what kind of employee complaints, concerns, or questions may require an internal investigation, and how do you do that in a legally compliant way. So on that webinar, I will be joined by my fantastic colleague, Carrie Patrizio. So you will get to meet Carrie. And we look forward to seeing everybody November 21st at noon back here on Zoom. And thank you so much for investing your time with us today.